Well. Clemson Tiger fans, college football fans, welcome back to another episode of the All In Show right here on Clemson at the Voice of College Football. Thank you so much for joining me. Before we get into the show tonight, do me a favor, hit that like button. It's free. It really helps out the channel. Also, consider subscribing. Me and Jordan do a show here every single Tuesday, 8 p.m. called the All In Show. We talk Clemson football, talk college football. So I hope you guys will stick out with us. It's year-round throughout the offseason, so don't go anywhere. We will be right here throughout the offseason. So thank you so much for that. I got a special guest for you guys tonight, Brian Knight from Clemson Football Live, a massive guest for you guys. I don't know quite how I convinced him to come onto my show, but I did anyway. So hope you guys are excited about that because I am. We're going to talk the Chad Morris hire. We're going to talk the transfer portal. We're going to talk the future of Clemson football, the future of Dabo Swinney at Clemson. All of that and more coming up in tonight's episode. So jam-packed show for you guys tonight. Get your comments in the comment section. If I have enough time with Brian at the end, maybe we can get to a couple questions. We won't be able to get to a lot. So if you want your comment or question read during this show, please hit that super chat feature so that your comment is highlighted. Thank you to all the channel members. I will get to you guys as well. Thank you so much for being here. But without further ado, I'm going to bring on my co-host for today, which is Brian Knight from Clemson Football Live. Brian, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate your presence on this show, and I know all the fans are excited to see you here tonight.
Well, and some of them may be like, I thought I could get away from that guy, and here he is. But, man, thanks for having me on. You and I have known one another for a very, very long time. Even back, it feels like another life. But, man, it's good to be on here filling in for Jordan. And you and Jordan have always been friends of mine. So, man, I'm ready to dive in and talk about Clemson football. There's a lot going on right now.
Yeah, absolutely. A ton going on in Clemson football, a ton going on in college football as a whole. We're in the midst of the playoff. There's a lot of good stories. The Ole Miss drama with Lane Kiffin, the transfer portal is a mess right now. I think there's 4,000 plus players in the transfer portal. It's absolutely insane. College football is in a place right now where it's truly unsustainable. There's got to be some sort of governing body that develops out of this that's not named the NCAA. When we will get to that point, I don't really know. But I look forward to the day where there is some sort of governing body or a commissioner, if you will. I know Josh Pate has a commission for that, but I vote Bobby Durkins for commissioner of college football.
Well, Bobby Durkin shows up, and they're like, why has he got a jug of gasoline? And his reply is to burn it down. So who knows what happens there. Yeah, man, I mean, the transfer portal, I mean, we're still getting used to this, even though it's been around now for a while. I think I saw where one of the quarterbacks, man, he's just totally slipped my mind, is going to make $5 million next year playing. And so, I mean, there's a lot of money being thrown around, but I think that any team out there, if they're going to live in this transfer portal world and more than just go out and throw out a net and throw out a bunch of money and pull players in, they really need to know how to evaluate talent. And I think that's why Kirk Cignetti up at Indiana has done such a great job. And before we got started here tonight, you and I were talking about some of the players that committed today out of the portal. And I told you, man, I hope that we know how to evaluate the talent and pull them in, because if you work it right, you can fix some things, at least for the upcoming season.
Yeah, absolutely. You can fix some things. That's the beauty and the curse of the transfer portal as we currently live in college football. Is you can definitely turn over a roster, and that's certainly what Tom Allen and that defensive staff is currently trying to do at Clemson. Much needed. We'll get into the transfer portal a little bit later as far as guys that have already committed to Clemson and guys that we're going after, and the overall philosophy on the defensive side of the ball is kind of a stark contrast of what the offensive side of the ball is doing in this transfer portal season for Clemson. But certainly there is a blessing and a curse that comes with what college football is nowadays and the transfer portal.
Yeah, it is. I mean, if you're a team who believes that you can blow $25 million and that's going to fix all your problems, I'm sorry, Texas proves that that's wrong. And there's other teams that have spent a lot of money and they're not even in the college football playoff. And then you turn around and look at teams like Vanderbilt, Indiana, who right now is my favorite side team. I mean, just watching what is going on up there. I'm telling you, Tiger Paul Craven, what we are seeing at Indiana is a Red Sea splitting type of thing going on in college football.
Yeah.
You look at those two programs and you see especially how Indiana has done what they've done. They have no history except for bad. I know that they've had some recent contributions, I think, from Mark Cuban, but overall, they're not nearly as rich as a lot of these other programs. And they're on pace to potentially win the national championship and win the most games in a regular season in the modern era at 16-0. So it comes down to this. If you know how to use it, great. But if you think spending $25, $30, $40 million is going to guarantee you a playoff hope and a potential run to the national championship, I'm sorry, you have to know how to coach.
Yeah, absolutely. Coaching is paramount in college football. Development is key, especially at this level. This is not the NFL. I know a lot of people want to compare new college football and the way that it is run to the NFL. It couldn't be further from the truth. It is very different. This is still a very much a developmental game. And if you don't have the right coaches in place, it really doesn't matter who you got on the roster, because they're not going to develop into the talent that they could be. And you're not going to produce at the level that your quote unquote blue chip or talent level says that you should. Much like Clemson in 2025, we saw how that worked out. The best team or the most production returning in 2025 out of all the teams in college football, and you went 7-6.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, I mean,
because you didn't have the coaches in place.
That's exactly right. And you know me, I've been beating this drum for a good 4 years now. That there were some questionable hires as that. So I always like to do before the 6th consecutive playoff and after the 6th consecutive playoffs, right? And so the coaching staff that was responsible for the 6 consecutive playoffs and the 2 national championships in 3 years, they're not at Clemson anymore. And they haven't been at Clemson for a while. So when they started moving on and taking other jobs, they started retiring like Dan Brooks. We started hiring. And those hires, and you know me, and I've talked about this on my channel. Anyone who watches both our channels, I know that we have a lot of guys who watches both channels. So you know what I'm about to say. So here we go. I don't like talking about firing people. I don't get a kick out of it. Some people, it's almost like an unhealthy, like, fire them. I don't get a kick out of it. Right. Unfortunately, when you look at the results, and like you said, the most production returning in all of the college football, you go 7-6. I'm sorry, letting go of 2 coaches is not going to do it. It's not going to cut it. So anyway, that's where I'm at with that. But coaching matters, and it always will matter. And guys like Kirk Cignetti and Clark Lee, they prove it. Yeah, they understand it. So let's go ahead and hop into it, because we got a ton of topics to hit tonight, and I know me and you we can both be long-winded. So let's go ahead and dive into it and see what we can accomplish here tonight on the All In Show. First topic of the night, Brian, is Chad Morris hire. I've made a video about it. You've made a video about it. I think the Clemson fans out there that watch us kind of know our thoughts, but I did want to hit it. Because there will be a broader audience out there today that will be watching us. We got 81 people in the chat right now. Hit that like button while you're in here. But Brian, just kind of give your overarching thoughts on this Chad Morris hire. I know when Garrett Riley was initially fired, I don't want to ever say I'm excited about somebody losing their job. Okay. I don't revel in people losing their job. I thought it was something that Clemson had to do. He's been here for 3 seasons. 2 seasons were a complete disaster. He had 1 season in the middle that was good. Cade Klubnik's really only massively successful season as a quarterback, and Clemson's massively successful season under Garrett Riley. The other 2 seasons were an abject failure and a disaster as an offensive staff. So I felt like you had to move on from him. Early on, Chad Morris's name was floated out there. Originally, I was like, there's no way that happens. There's not a chance that you fire the guy that you brought in to usher out like basically the Chad Morris offense that you had been running for however long it had been at that point. You were still running under Tony Elliott, a version
and under Brandon Streeter, a version of the Chad Morris offense. So when I first heard his name attached to this Clemson job, I was like, there's no way that happens. Yet here we are. He is the new OC. We're going to run it back like it's 2011. Your thoughts?
Well, there was a lot of teams that ran it back this past season, whether it was a head coach or so on. I mean, you got to look at Arkansas. They end up with Petrino at one moment running things again. Scott Frost down at UCF. You got Schiano up at Rutgers. Here's the thing about Chad Morris. This is where there's a lot of nuance, and I have to give a little – I want to make sure I'm not insulting the man. I really appreciate what the guy did, in 2011 through 2014. The thing that I look at with this hire is it seems like a really convenient hire. Mm-hmm. Like we didn't want to get into the coaching world and fight and dig and put in our due diligence and put more money on the table and bring in one of the best offensive coordinators in all of college football. We went after someone who we respect, but they were there. They didn't have a regular job. Why? They left so they could go see. He's made a lot of money. And as long as he's decently managed it well, he doesn't have to work this year. So he went up and he watched Chandler play at Virginia. And as a dad, I really like that. But to me, this is just a convenient hire. To me, this is more of, well, hold on, this worked, and I think we're going to go back to this again. I think that Clemson is at a pivotal point in the program right now to where, the emergency lights, the floodlights are going off. Like the power has shut off, and those really creepy lights that are in the hallways at a corporate building or maybe in a manufacturer, they're on right now. And at this point, Coach Swinney says, you know what, I'm going with Chad Morris. I felt like this was going to be this, again, not knocking Chad Morris. There's just a lot of questions. There's a lot of questions because he hasn't coached at this level in a while. We have to ask ourselves, how will his game plan from 12 years ago, from 15 years ago, how will it work now? Now, I think that he'll call a better game plan than what we've seen over the past maybe 4 years.
Yeah.
But Chad Morris, and I know he had 4th and 16 against LSU, and I know he had the game against Ohio State, and people can give me the stats about how many points he's had here and there and scored here and there. I get it, and I respect it. He also got out-coached in big games. So the question that I have at this point is, was this the best hire for Clemson? Or was this the most convenient hire? So that's one. And then the other thing is, it's totally slipping my mind. Of course it is, because, I have 60 thoughts in one mouth, is, I just really wonder, how, or I knew this was it. Tiger Paul Craven. I knew when we did not immediately make a change at coach in the coaching room right after the South Carolina game, I felt like that it was going to be this type of convenient hire. And I had a lot of people telling me, just like they were telling you, well, Dabo is going to hire after the bowl game is over. And I have repeatedly said this. And that is, this is an uncommon year. I've never seen so many coaches fired week after week after week so early. And then you're having to replace them, and it creates a vacuum. And so you can't treat an uncommon year in a common way. And to me, this just says, hey, you know what? It's just business as usual in Clemson. This is what we're going to do. And if you don't like it, I'm sorry, but this is the way we need to go. So, I say that I've made a lot of comments, and I want to make sure that I show Chad Morris some respect. I'm not trying to tear down anyone, but I'm just saying, overall, where this program is at versus the hire seems like it was more convenience versus what was best for us.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Brian. And it's kind of one of those hires that it just feels like the safe hire. It feels like the familiar hire. It feels like you're trying to kindle some magic that you once had at Clemson, because let's face it, the magic at Clemson, the magic in the program, it's all gone. It's been gone for quite some time. And it just feels like Dabo Swinney's trying to reach into the past and try to rekindle some magic that he once had. And look, I have all the respect in the world for Chad Morris. I'm not saying he's a terrible coach. I'm not saying that he's forgotten how to coach offense, I just have a lot of questions. The last time we saw him at this level being a play caller was at Auburn. He had the 89th scoring offense in the country. That's the year Gus Malzahn got fired. It wasn't a good product. And people will point to all the stuff that he did at Clemson, and I'm not discounting any of that. I just don't know that it works now in today's college football. Has he reinvented his offense? Will we see some sort of, nuances change to his scheme? I don't know. Like, that's stuff that we will not be privy to for quite some time. I'm very apprehensive. I'm not sure that this was the correct hire. I would have much rather seen Clemson go on a national search and hire the best offensive coordinator that they could have got. Unfortunately, that's not what Dabo Swinney chose to do. He said in a press conference earlier this season that he was going to get back to trusting his gut. And at that time, me and Jordan discussed it on the channel, and we were both like, what does that mean? Like, what exactly does Dabo mean by that? And in my opinion, hindsight 2020, looking back, I think what he meant was his gut was not Garrett Riley. So now he's going back to his gut, which is Chad Morris. In a vacuum, that's what I see from it. And I'm not sure it's going to work, but here we are, and we're about to find out.
Yeah, ready or not, I mean, Lane Kiffin and LSU, no matter anyone's feelings on Lane Kiffin, personally, Lane Kiffin can coach. Ole Miss right now is in the playoff because of Lane Kiffin. They won the other night, even though he wasn't on the sideline, because of Lane Kiffin. The guy gave them 4 out of 5, 4 10-plus win seasons in 5 years. The previous 49, they only had 3 total. The guy can coach. He is waiting on us in LSU with more resources than he's ever had at his fingertips. Save maybe Southern Cal. And so he's waiting on us. So the thing that I'm concerned about is our isolated approach and view of college football. And then we have to go out and play these teams, and then we're shocked when they beat us. And some of them were shocked at how much they dominate us. It's because of concerns like this. How much was this hire based on convenience versus aggressiveness? So we will see. Absolutely.
We will absolutely see. Make sure you guys are checking out the Voice of College Football website, vocfb.com. That's vocfb.com, your one-stop shop for all things Voice of College Football, articles over there, show schedules, not only for this show, but all the shows under the Voice of College Football network. I hope you guys will go over there, check it out, and let us know what you think. That's vocfb.com, vocfb.com. Brian, I want to transition into broader strokes of the Clemson program and the future that is realistically on the line as us fans kind of evaluate this program and the trajectory. And unfortunately for us Clemson fans, we have been on a downward trajectory since 2019. The last time we played in the college football playoff, we got beat in the national title by LSU. That was a really good team with Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne, and we can rehash that game, but we won't do that now. But since the 2020 season and beyond, up until now, 2025, so that's a lengthy time, right? You've had 3 losses, 4 losses, 6 losses. There is it's not a blip on the radar anymore, folks. I hate to tell Clemson fans out there, this is not a blip on the radar. This is a clear trajectory of the Clemson Tiger program, and it's not going in a positive direction.
No, and you know what? You and I know one another well enough to where I don't think you'll take insult in this. I want to correct you. You missed a 4-loss season in there.
Sorry.
It was 3 loss, 4 loss, and 6. So you missed a 4-loss season. I can't let you miss that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. We're starting to lose. We're starting to lose count now. And that's the thing that you have to look at. I talk about troubleshooting all the time. Troubleshooting, what do? You look at what stayed the same and what's changed. That's it. Okay. So I talked about a little earlier on in the program that the guys responsible as a whole for those 6 consecutive playoffs and 2 national championships in a 3-year period. There's only 2 of them left on the team right now, and it's Dabo Swinney, and I'm talking about coaches now. Dabo Swinney and Mike Reed. That's it. That's it. There's only two of them. And so when we're looking at this and we look at the 7-6 season, we see the trend of 3 losses, 4 losses, and now 6. And you just lost to a team in a bowl game that they have an interim coaching staff. They have players who in between plays are actually looking on their phone to hear from their agent of, hey, if I hit the transfer portal right now, exactly how much money will I? Meanwhile, on the other side of the field, you have the coaching staff who, as a majority, is still there right now as we speak and has been there the past 3 or 4 years. And that interim staff beat you by 12 points. So you step back and you look at this program and you have to ask yourself this question. It's not if I'm a real fan. It's not if I actually love Clemson. It's not if I care about what Dabo or appreciate what Coach Swinney has done in the past. The real question that you have to ask yourself is, why would anyone believe that anything significantly is going to change for this upcoming season if we have not seen significant changes in the coaching room? Mm-hmm. And we can be as hopeful as we possibly want to be or can be, but I'll place it this way, and I'm not encouraging gambling here, but if you had $10,000, would you want to put $10,000 that on this upcoming season that Clemson will win 10 ball games? I think you should go ahead and flush your money down the toilet. I don't think so. I haven't even seen the full schedule yet. I can't remember what it is. I mean, I think we'd be lucky to win 8 games next year. And why is that? Is it because I don't love the team? No, it's because I have seen the product of this current staff. And this is where it gets us. You mentioned it earlier. We had the most experienced production coming back in all of college football, 7-6. We did not have an Oklahoma or Florida type schedule. Those schedules were ridiculous. Mm-hmm. We didn't have that. We started off with a football team that everybody was all happy and thrilled about. I even told LSU fans, I said, win or lose, I'm going to tell you straight up, I'm not so sure about y'all. They were so impressed by their coach's performance that they fired him, and that's who we lost to in the very first game of the year. Mm-hmm. So with all of that said, we see where we're at. And the future of the Clemson program, I hate to say it right now, does not look bright whatsoever. And to me, that just goes back to the guys who were in charge of development, finding the right players, scheming, building a culture that wins on the field, building a culture that their shoulders are not slumping like they were when they played Troy. I was there. I was very close to the sideline. They looked depressed. Half the staff and players looked like they were at a funeral home. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I'm sorry, folks. I don't know what we're supposed to say here other than lie through our teeth. And what is interesting is some of Clemson's legacy media, who has been around for some time, it has got so bad that they can't even give. Things could be getting a little. They're sitting there going, guys, if we say that this is anything other than what it is, we're going to look like we've lost it. So That's how bad it is. And so the future of this program right now, and we know that these are the coaching changes that have been made, and these are the only changes that are going to be made. I hate to say it, it's not looking good to me.
Yeah, and I think that's an important key to talk about is were there changes made at the end of the season? Sure. Were there enough changes made? No, I don't think so. No. I think there were significantly more staff changes that needed to be made. I think it's pretty clear, if you know how Dabo Swinney operates as a Clemson fan, there are no more staff changes coming. So all the people hoping that we would have 4 or 5 coaching changes on this staff and try to solidify a better staff that could get the maximum amount of production out of the talent, that's not happening. You're only saving grace if you're trying to grasp at straws, Brian, and you're trying to, can we be better than 7-6 next season in 2026? Your only hope is that Clemson knocks it out of the park in the transfer portal. They have 19 Absolutely. Spots available on the roster. Less now, maybe 17 at this point with the 3 commitments. Still, a ton of spots available. Unless they knock it out of the park and absolutely just flip the roster and make it, otherworldly talented, I hate to break it to everybody, and I don't take any joy in saying this. I don't think it gets any better next year. 2025 was Clemson's season. That was supposed to be the year. It was the year that Dabo Swinney had built to. It was going to be either the prove-it year that the Dabo Swinney model still works, or the year where it didn't work. And unfortunately for us, it didn't work. And there has been changes made. I don't know if it's enough. And it's unfortunate because we've seen the highs of the highs as Clemson fans, and we know what this program could be. And frankly, we're just not close at this point. We're just not close.
Yeah, I brought this up the other day on my channel, and I might even do a video just dedicated to this topic. And if you steal it, you steal it, Tiger Paw Craven. You go for it. I shouldn't have put it out there in the atmosphere and for everyone to know, because they'll go create it. But I was the one. I had the idea first. I like to look at businesses and even countries, their governments that were once great and then they failed. And it's very interesting to see some of the things that happens when you look into some of these historical figures, historical businesses. And I brought up circuit cities for a lot of my younger viewers. They're like, circuit what? Circuit City was massive. It was Best Buy before Best Buy. And I mean, they were just on top of the world. And then things started to change in the late 90s, early 2000s. Of course, having a website, an online presence and selling there became a big deal, where they really were not interested in that. And they made some decisions with their personnel and some things that they shouldn't have made. And then suddenly, 8 or 9 years later, in 2008, I want to say they went bankrupt. And this former titan of the world, especially in the United States, they're in bankruptcy. And their former CEO said something along the lines that said, when things start going bad, that's when you think you know all the answers. Mm-hmm. And he said that. And so the thing that I have in my mind is, us criticizing Clemson, us criticizing namely Coach Swinney, who we appreciate everything he's done for us.
Right.
When we criticize him, it's not because we're out here, we're being jerks. We're literally looking at him going, dude, you built Rome, man. I mean, you literally built Rome, and Rome is falling apart. And so when I look at Clemson, I see Circuit City. I see Toys R Us. I see Sears, Montgomery Ward, Radio Shack. I see what used to be massive and profitable and even popular in pop culture, and now it's gone.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, Circuit City does not have one physical location, but they do have an online store. Think about that. Anyway,
still holding on strong there, but yeah, I think it's certainly times are tough in Clemson, South Carolina, and there's certainly some improvement to be done. It remains to be seen what this offseason will be. We have to get through this transfer portal period, and then I think we can evaluate that. But I don't think enough changes were made on the coaching staff. But again, we shall see. It's definitely something that we will have to evaluate into the future. I think your analogy of Circuit City and Blockbuster and all of those guys are certainly an applicable thing to talk about when you're talking about Clemson football. Guys, make sure you're checking out the Voice of College Football shop. Our merch store has launched. We have Clemson merch. All of our different channel merches are on there. So go check it out, vocfb-shop. That's vocfb-shop. Go get something nice for yourself and help support the show and the channel at the same time. Guys, I want to thank Brian for being on here. We got 132 people in the live chat right now. Smash that like button for us. Consider subscribing. And we got a couple more topics to get to, but make sure you're hitting that like button. It really helps out the channel. Brian, I think you kind of stated some things about the overall Clemson program that I think segue nicely right into what we're about to talk about. And this is not a topic that I typically like to broach on the channel, but I thought it was something that we could discuss tonight in a respectful manner to Dabo Swinney. Let's face it, Dabo Swinney is the greatest Clemson coach of all time, and it's not close. He built Clemson into something that most in college football would never thought Clemson could have been. A perennial national championship contender, 6 back-to-back playoff appearances, played for 4 national championships, won 2 of them against almighty Alabama when Nick Saban was still coaching them. He's one of the sole reasons in college football that Nick Saban doesn't have more national championships than he does. He's a great coach. He's a program builder. He's a visionary. But realistically, at this point in time in college football, where we currently are, is Dabo Swinney still capable of pulling the nose of Clemson football program back up and just getting back on a trajectory where we're climbing back up the mountain instead of tumbling down the mountain? Your thoughts?
Oh, man. So with only 2 coaching changes being made, with a coaching staff that just led you to 7-6, year before that, 4 losses, before that, 4 losses. I won't go through everything, but that's the majority of that staff is still there. We see recruiting falling off, but the most recent should be important move was last Monday, right? Not 8 days ago. 8 days ago, we have 2 coaches. To me, that signals to me that this past season was not bad enough for him. That signals to me that he is not in a place to where he used to be. To me, there was the Dabo Swinney who would walk out and talk about, hey, we want these guys to be good men in society when they leave Clemson, and we want them to graduate. But we also want to win football games while doing it, and we want to compete for a national title. When he won 10 games for the first time, took Clemson to 10 wins for the first time since the early 90s, won an ACC championship. He tempered the Clemson. In fact, he kind of called out the Clemson Nation for the loser mentality. He said what? He said, guys, this is great and stuff, but this is not the goal. This is the step in the right direction.
Right.
We don't see that anymore. End of story. Yeah. And so if you tell me, hey, I'm going to trust my gut more and I have more championships to win, and then it's time to make coaching changes, and the majority of those coaches, I'm talking about a lot of them, are still there, it tells me that no time soon will we see the results that we saw, during that 6-year period. Yeah, and so for him, what I think is going to happen, and stop me if I'm starting to jump ahead here, I think that these next 3 to 4 years, I think it's going to get pretty dark. I think that what we just saw is going to be kind of more of it. I think that we could see an upset here and there, and it's going to stoke the Clemson faithful that just everything's okay and y'all are overreacting and no, that's not a trend and all that bunch of stuff. And they'll be able to point back at guys like you and I and go, see. And then at the end of the year, you still have 4 or 5 losses. Yeah. And the next year you have 4 and 5 losses. Maybe you have 6 according to how tough your schedule is and how much your roster has fell off. So Dabo's future at Clemson, I think, could be much brighter. All he would have to do is go in and make some very difficult decisions, go after the top coaches in all of college football, let them do their thing, and make it to where if you coach at Clemson, it is because you are the best at your position. You are the best coordinator, hands down, no questions asked. And we are really good people who want people to graduate and so on. But if we play you, even in your backyard with your wife and kids reffing for you and swinging calls your way, we're still going to pound you.
That's right.
That's where we used to be. We're not there anymore. So for me, my prediction is I think for the next 3 to 4 years, and then I don't know what would happen after that, as far as if someone would, call him in on the floor, or maybe he just walks away from the game. But I think the next 3 to 4 years is going to be very dark. That's my prediction.
Yeah, I think that's the feeling of a lot of Clemson fans, unfortunately. And I want to kind of preface my comments with, I love Dabo Swinney. I think he's one of the best coaches in college football. I love the stuff that he stands for. I love his principles. And I think all of that has a place in college football. And I think it's important. I think it's important to graduate players. I think it's important to build good men. I think it's important to care about who your players are as people off the field. But winning matters. That's why you get paid. You want all of those things in conjunction with we're winning football games. And that was the standard at Clemson for a long time. And I reference, to your point, when Dabo Swinney kind of scolded the fan base about that first ACC championship game, and everybody was going crazy, and this is the pinnacle of Clemson football, and oh my God, I didn't think we'd ever get here. It's so awesome. And he sort of scolded the fan base. And that was the beginning of the new standard at Clemson football, because I'm paraphrasing, but he basically told the Clemson fan base, like, this ain't the goal. Like, I'm glad you guys are happy, but our goals are far more lofty than an ACC championship game.
Mm-hmm.
And now that Clemson fans are holding the coaching staff's proverbial feet to the fire because of the new standard that Dabo Swinney himself set, he gets frustrated, and he sometimes lashes out at the fan base, and I think that's unfortunate, because we are simply parroting the standard that you set at Clemson, and I'm not sure it's the standard anymore. Now, with that said, I'm going to be completely honest. I think Dabo Swinney is fully capable of reinventing this program and taking them back to the top of college football. He is very capable. And I talked with Jordan about on the show last week. I still think Clemson's brand is big enough and strong enough still in college football, even with the multiple disappointing seasons that we've had, that we can still reach out and grab some of the best coaches in college football. Unfortunately, if this continues, that's no longer going to be the case. Those coaches are no longer going to be available to you because of where you are. You still have that capability. You still have that brand and that presence in college football, but you won't have it for much longer if there's not a course correction. I think Dabo Swinney is 1,000% capable of correcting course.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just not sure of recent moves that is going to happen.
I agree with you. I agree with you. That and like, if someone tells me, hey, and I know people make mistakes. I want to preface this. People make mistakes. People have good intentions. And then we're all human beings. We make mistakes and so on. But over a long period of time, if someone says, oh, this is my goal, or this is what I really believe is important and everything, but their action says something different, over a long period of time, it tells you what their real goal is. Okay. Mm-hmm. And that can get very offensive for all of us on a personal level. Maybe you run a business, maybe whatever. I mean, that can get really, really, it'll aggravate someone. But I'm sorry, it's the truth. Mm-hmm. It's the truth. And so, if I'm hearing we have more national championships to win, well, you have to look at that coaching staff and say, 6 losses, 4 losses, 4 losses. We haven't beat a top 10 team, a legitimate top 10 team, since that first round of the playoff when we beat Ohio State. How long ago was that? I mean, I had less gray hair. Yeah. I have a 19-year-old. I think he was 11 or 12 at the time. I mean, serious. Okay, that's how long ago that was, folks. It's time and time is to quote the great Steve Miller Band. Time keeps on slipping. And before you know it, we're sitting at 10 years. We'll be at 11. We'll be at 12. We'll be at 15 years going, I think we can turn. No, I'm sorry. So you show me what you believe by what you overall do. Not saying you don't have hiccups or mistakes like any human being does, but what you overall do tells me what your goal in the direction you want to go in. So I think I agree with you 100%. I've said that a lot too. As if this man woke up tomorrow morning and said, you know what, I just want to do it. I believe the guy could do it. Get 4 or 5 more national championships. We'd be crying. We're like, yes, and everything. It's just right now the posture. I pay attention to people's posture. Tiger Paul Craven. The posture says something very different.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's the scary thing if you're a Clemson fan at this point. And I've said it on this channel before, and I'll kind of wrap up this segment with it. I think Dabo Swinney has a question to answer. In and of himself. Who does he want to be? Do you want to be a Nick Saban who reinvents himself several times over his career and continues to have success? Or do you want to ride out and allow your program to deteriorate like a Bobby Bowden did in his later years? And I mean no disrespect by that. Bobby Bowden's one of the greatest coaches of all time in college football. But there are two very different trajectories, right? Nick Saban retired at the top of his game in college football. He decided to walk away. We know how Bobby Bowden's tenure went at Florida State towards the end.
Yeah.
So who are you going to be? I think that's a question only one man can answer, and that man is Dabo Swinney. So I hope it gets answered in the way that we want it to. But again, it's not our decision.
Yeah, and I think that everyone needs to hear this. You and I are. I mean, to me, I think you disrespect someone by not telling them the truth.
Yeah,
and sugarcoating everything. I think that's actually quite the opposite of what people thinks it is. That's actually disrespect because you think they can't handle it, and you have no expectation of them. Having an expectation of someone is actually a compliment. It believes that you actually can do something versus not. And with that said, I believe that. I believe that he can turn it around. I really do believe he can turn it around, but I'm with you. Only he can answer that, and we will see. Yeah. We will see either way.
We will absolutely see. Catch Clemson live on all your favorite audio streaming platforms, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, wherever you like to get your podcast. Just simply search Clemson Live, whether you're on a run, a long drive, whenever you like to consume your podcast. Make sure you're searching Clemson Live. Give us a rate, review, subscribe over there. And thank you guys so much for helping us out with that. Brian, last thing we'll end with tonight on the show is the transfer portal. This is a crazy thing in college football. There's probably, last time I looked, there was over 4,000 people in the transfer portal at the D1 level. There might be over 5,000 at this point. Who knows what the number is going to swell to? It seemingly gets bigger and bigger every single season. Clemson has currently had 12 players on their roster transfer out. That's not including the players that ran out of eligibility or decided to go pro early. So there's quite a bit of holes on the Clemson roster, specifically on the defensive side of the ball. There's a couple on the offensive side of the ball as well, but more specifically on the defensive side of the ball, you kind of see what Clemson is kind of going after in the portal heavily. It's been heavily on the defensive side of the ball. I think they've only gone after offensive linemen on the offensive side of the ball. So kind of a stark difference between how those two sides of the ball are operating. Tom Allen being very aggressive, looking to retool his defense and bring in players that can execute in the way that he wants. Clemson has currently had 3 players commit via the transfer portal. So we've lost 12. We have 3 commit, one out of Old Dominion, Carter, 6'1", 190-pound safety, had 75 tackles, 2 pass breakups, 6 INTs, and 2 tackles for loss. So a good get there for the Tigers, right? Penn State transfer, played for Tom Allen, saw his production decrease a little bit this season, but had a really good season under Tom Allen. He's 5'11", 199 pounds. He's a defensive back. Had 53 tackles, 2 INTs, 9 pass breakups in 3 seasons at Penn State. So a much-needed DB for Clemson, just judging by our roster. And then the linebacker, Luke Farrell, 6'3", 230 pounds out of Cal. He was an all-ACC honorable mention. He was also the ACC Defensive Freshman of the Year this season with 91 tackles, 1 sack, 5 tackles for loss. So 3 key pieces on the defensive side of the ball. Your thoughts on kind of Clemson's approach to the portal this season? We have a ton of holes. I think at one time we had 19 openings. It's probably down to like 17 at this point. I don't know that we get to the 17 number more that we need, but we will see how it goes. Definitely a lot more work still to be done, even with these 3 commitments.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's like we're talking about 2 different teams when we're talking about the offense and the defense. And it's not like the offense is just in stellar shape, right? I mean, it looks like a different head coach is over the defense. That's no exaggeration. They're going very strong on the defensive side of the football. I think every 5 minutes we have a defensive player out of the transfer portal visiting Clemson. They're walking him past the co-eds just to, let him know what we're offering. We'll take him up to TDs, get him a beer if he's allowed to drink. And if he's not, we're going to turn our head to it down at the ASO Club. They're doing that on the defensive side of the football. On the offensive side of the football, guys, we're good. We're great. We're wonderful. We can move the football at will. We have a stable of quarterbacks, a stable of offensive linemen. We're great. I mean, we know that's not the truth. But I will tell you this. I do believe that if we land 75% of what we're targeting, and I just pulled that out of thin air because it felt pretty good to say 75%, say versus the status quo of 50%.
Yeah.
Of what we're aiming for on the defensive side of the football. I would be shocked if it actually garnered us a few more wins. I'm talking about lower level wins. I'm excited to see the linebacker out of Cal. I'm excited to see this guy out of Penn State that played for Tom Allen. You're talking about his production fell off in this past season. To be fair, everything fell off in Happy Valley this past year. It was bad, and they had as much expectation as we did. They had a ton of production coming back, a starting quarterback coming back, 2 unbelievable running backs. So a lot of things fell apart in Happy Valley. Side note, I still find it very interesting that the 2 of us ended up playing one another in a bowl game. It was like your bowl, but anyway,
it was the preseason national championship game.
Yeah, exactly.
Just disguised as a pinstripe bowl.
Exactly, and we know in our hearts that we all walked out of there. Anyway, I'm leaving that alone. But with that said, I wouldn't be shocked if the defense actually becomes solid. I don't think they'll become great, but I think that they could definitely be solid. It kind of goes back to the, like 5 years ago when the defense was keeping us in the games that the offense was still farting around on. You remember that?
Yeah.
Okay. So over the past few years, we've seen the defense kind of fall apart, and that's the reason why the losses have kind of mounted on us.
Yeah.
But I could see us get back to just a good, solid defense, not great, solid, that could keep us in a few more games. Going back to the offense, man, we need a lot of help. I mean, we need a lot of help. I know that this recruiting class was really heavy with offensive linemen, and I have a lot of belief in Matt Luke. I know this past season didn't turn out well, but let me tell you this. This guy is a proven leader over a long period of time. So if he comes to Clemson and everything falls apart, folks, that's more of a Clemson problem than a Matt Luke problem. Sorry. I mean, history's on my side in that argument. But until those young players can get developed and ready to play in the big game, we need to pull guys in out of the transfer portal onto the offensive line. I would have liked to have seen us went and got a quarterback. I think that Christopher Vizina, I know he didn't play too bad against SMU. I know that they have nationally they had a lower ranked secondary, but hey, he went in there and he did what he did. I don't want to take away from it. But then again, Christopher Vizina looks like he is the victim of yet again Poor development at Clemson. You had DJ, you had Cade Klubnik. Now you have Christopher Vizina, who doesn't look ready after 3 years. Folks, when are we going to stop going through quarterbacks like pairs of underwear and finally admit that we have a development issue? I'm just asking. So with that said, I would have liked to have seen us go to the transfer portal and pull someone out. Even if Chris Denson got the offense tomorrow, he still has a lot to learn. And he still needs an offensive line to block for him. And he still needs whoever's going to play running back for us to be actually effective. And who knows if Wesco will be well enough to play some next year. I mean, that was a bad injury. I mean, they pulled him for the rest of the year. So I would like to see us go heavier on the offensive side of the football. We're not. That's a big question mark for me. It goes back to what we were talking about a little earlier about, are we really paying attention to this team? And then it goes back to what I said just a moment ago as well. It looks like there's two different coaches running the offense and the defense. So I'm happy with who we got so far. We just need more.
Yeah, there's a ton of work left for Clemson in the transfer portal. I think they've done a nice job of being aggressive, specifically on the defensive side of the football. It looks like they're only going to bring in some offensive linemen, maybe one or two offensive linemen on the offensive side of the ball. I was of the opinion heading into the offseason that Clemson's starting quarterback for 2026 was not on the roster. I was wrong. They are going to roll with the room that they have. You know, I guess Chad Morris has some play in that. I guess he is okay with what's currently on the roster. Is it eventually going to be Chris Vizina? Is it going to be Denson? Is it going to be Tate Reynolds? Who's it going to be, right? I'm not excited about those options just because Chris Denson, I think, is electric with his legs, but I think he's got a long way to go as far as a passer. Chris Vizina, I don't know that he quite fits a Chad Morris style quarterback. At least he doesn't appear that way. Tate Reynolds does, but he's a freshman. He's a guy who didn't play basically his entire senior season due to injury. And although he's not going to play baseball his first year at Clemson, he's going to go right into spring and compete for the quarterback position. I don't know that he'll be ready. That's a big ask for a guy that missed pretty much his entire senior season to walk in and be your day one starter. So it's going to be an interesting kind of shakeup there. If we know Dabo, it'll be Chris Vizina, at least from the jump, and then we'll see where it goes from there. But again, Clemson's got a lot of work to do in the transfer portal. Will they get it all done? That remains to be seen.
I hope that what happens with Vizina is not what happened with Cole Stout and Chad Morris, because someone corrected me a long time ago. I think it was my buddy Chase Henderson corrected me on something, and he was like, you realize the reason that Cole did not look so dominant was because Chad was trying to treat Cole as Tosh Boyd.
Yeah.
And he wasn't.
No.
The guy that could run that type of offense and do it better than anyone was sitting on the bench. And that's not Cole's fault, by the way. That's not.
No, it wasn't.
If you are going to put someone on the field, I mean, I've been around some really good coaches in my life in different sports. One of the most successful, and you talked about this with Nick Saban, he had to reinvent himself. He had to hire different coaches all the time. He had to change his philosophy of offense. Yes. I mean, a lot of people forgets that. They just see all the championships. This man changed a lot, while holding core principles of discipline and accountability. And, but with that said, he tried to make Cole Stout Tosh Boyd. And remember that Russell Athletic Bowl when Chad Morris had just been hired at SMU. The reins have been turned over to Elliott and Scott against Oklahoma. Deshaun Watson has ACL surgery after beating South Carolina on a torn ACL that they taped up really good, duct tape everywhere. Cole, I'm sitting there going, we're going to get the crap beat out of us. I mean, I'm sorry. We're just going to get the crap beat out of us. Cole Stout throws for what? 361. They beat him 40-3. So it does matter, and this is what I was talking about coaches just a second ago. If you have a guy you're going to put on a field, you have to coach for his skills. Coach for his skills. Don't coach for who you wished you had. Coach for who you have. You will have more success. And really good coaches, they adapt to the talent that they have. So if they're going to start Vizina, don't run the offense that Denson can run. Mm-hmm. Or just put Denson in there so poor Vizina doesn't have to get the crap boot out of him. Everybody's talking trash about him like, oh, he's terrible. No, you're putting a square peg into a round hole. Don't do that to him. So I fully believe Tiger Paul Craven. I fully believe, and I've been believing this for even before this season. Well, let me rephrase that. After the LSU game and we got to the Troy game and I saw the posture of the team, I saw how things had actually gotten worse. I literally said that unless a biblical miracle happens, Christopher Vizina will be the starting quarterback, ready or not, against LSU in the very first game of the year, and I stick to that. I believe that's going to happen. And I even hate to say it that way because it seems like I'm taking a slap at Vizina. I'm not. The guy just hasn't been developed, and he's in a long line of quarterbacks now that hasn't been developed. And but I just hope that they don't try to run that offense. That if it doesn't work for him, at least put him on the bench or give him a real chance to transfer and go somewhere that will use his skills.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's big question marks at the quarterback position heading into next year. And I don't think we're going to learn anything until we see it in action in 2026. We've heard all the things every offseason about Chris Vizina and how much he's progressed and he's looking great. And then he gets out on the field. And to be fair to him, in his one start this season against SMU, he played well. I mean, he did a great job, albeit against the worst pass defense in the ACC in SMU. But he did what he needed to do, and he played well. Does he fit this new scheme? I don't think so. Chad Morris is going to have to tailor it. If he's going to be the starting quarterback, Chad Morris is going to have to tailor it to what Chris Vizina does well. And we've seen that before. It's something that he hasn't done in the past. So we'll see if he's capable now of kind of tailoring his offense to his quarterback strengths. So, again, a lot of question marks for Clemson. I think we covered a lot tonight when it comes to Clemson football and the transfer portal and everything in between. Brian, I want to thank you for being on the show tonight. I don't want to kind of push you over time here. I know you said you had an hour of availability, so I think we're going to go ahead and end the show there tonight. We got 139 people right now in the live chat. Thank you guys so much for being here tonight. Little bit of a shorter show tonight, but I appreciate each and every one of you being in here. Hit that like button. Consider subscribing. Shout out to the channel members, David Lowry, Clemson Football Speakeasy, John Sarian. If I missed you, I'm sorry. Thank you to all the channel members that support the show on a monthly basis. You guys are the real MVPs. I appreciate each and every one of you being in here tonight. You guys are always amazing. It's always humbling that me as a Clemson fan could get on here and talk Clemson football on YouTube and people show up and care about what you think. So, Brian, thanks for being here tonight. But before I let you go, before we end the show, please tell the people where they can find you. I'm sure they all know who you are. But again, just shout out to your channel and let everybody know what you got going on.
Yeah, you can find me on YouTube at Clemson Football Live. Having a really good time over there. So, man, thanks for having me on. I miss Jordan. I wish he were here as well. But thanks for thinking of me and getting me on here. And we always have a really good time.
Absolutely. Shout out to Jordan. He's on a boat somewhere in the middle of the ocean or
jealous.
Somewhere. He's having a drink by the pool. He's chilling. So shout out to Jordan. He'll be back next week. Until then, guys, I'm Tiger Paul Craven. He's Brian Knight. Go check him out on Clemson Football Live, and go Tigers.